According to the New York Times, protests come for Paw Patrol. That is a phrase I never thought I would say in one of these videos. I never thought I'd talk about Paw Patrol, let alone protesting Paw Patrol. See, what's happening is people who are protesting police brutality and all the stuff we've been seeing recently, they're getting upset at TV shows that show cops in a good light, shows with good cops. Let's look at this article because it's completely ridiculous. The pushback started last week when the official Twitter account of Paw Patrol decided to send out this tweet, saying black voices to be heard, which a lot of people saw as being pretty bland. The response was things like euthanize the police dog and defund the Paw Patrol. All dogs go to heaven except the class traitors in the Paw Patrol. So apparently people care fairly deeply about Paw Patrol, and that's completely new to me. So Paw Patrol is a kids TV show. I don't want to talk about it too much, but the basic idea here, as we can see, is that this dog Chase is a police cop, I guess, and he's viewed in a positive light. But that's problematic because cops aren't the good guys. Cops should not be portrayed as inherently good. That's what this article is telling me. This article continues, the effort to publicize police brutality also means banishing the good cop archetype. Paw Patrol seems harmless enough, and that's the point. The movement rests on understanding that cops do plenty of harm. So having good cops in a TV show is a bad thing because cops do plenty of harm. One of the executive producers of Monk, which is a TV show I actually enjoy, he said, if you, as I have, worked on a TV show or movie in which the police are portrayed as lovable goofballs, you have contributed to the larger acceptance that cops are implicitly the good guys. Which I would argue that they are the good guys. Should you portray them as the bad guys? I don't really understand. The article then gives a few examples of cops, what they view as ruining these protests. We have in Houston an officer consoling a young black girl at a rally, telling her we're here to protect you, or cops kneeling next to a black boy with a Black Lives Matter sign. But these things are also inherently bad. Why? Because apparently they reframe protests against racial police violence into a bland, non-specific goal of solidarity. It says these moments are meant to represent the shared humanity between cops and officers, but cops are already humanized. The same cannot be said for black Americans who live in fear of them. And then it says at the very end, the good cop act is wearing thin. So let's just break that down little by little. Cops agreeing with the protesters and being in solidarity with them is a bad thing because somehow it reframes the protest. The vast majority of people, virtually everyone, is against police brutality, police officers included. So why can they not say that? Why can they not agree with the protest? I don't understand. And then it says that black Americans live in fear of cops and so they're dehumanized in some way. In my previous video about defunding the police, I talk about this and go to the Washington Post and show that 250 black Americans were shot and killed by the police last year. Now, while that number should be significantly lower, I'd like it to be virtually nothing, you also have to recognize that the vast majority of them were armed. If 250 people were killed by the police in 1 year, it doesn't really seem like that group should live in fear of cops. Continuing on, the Washington Post also had a very similar article last week. They said we need to shut down all police movies and TV shows now. They said that the best thing that Hollywood can do, besides putting out money in social media posts, is to immediately halt production on cop shows and movies and rethink the stories it tells. They continue and say it wouldn't be easy to get rid of shows like the Chicago franchise or Law & Order, but apparently it needs to be done. And I want to point out, if you're not familiar with it, the Chicago franchise is a group of 3 TV shows: Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med. So if you want to shut down police shows, why do you then have to shut down a show about firefighters as well as doctors? Is it bad to portray them as good guys as well? Maybe police, firefighters, doctors are all the bad guys and we just didn't know until now. There is one TV show we can keep, however, and that is Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because according to them, it's a sitcom that alternates explorations of the policies and identity politics of the New York Police Department with fantastic gags and one-liners. Now, don't get me wrong. I've watched this show, at least most of it, and I think it's a good show. It's not the greatest. I wouldn't call it fantastic by any means, but it's okay to keep this one cop show because it's about woke cops. But any other cop show, if it shows cop in any other light, well, that's not acceptable. Even Brooklyn Nine-Nine, though, is problematic, because apparently it can't escape what it is. Neither the show's good intentions and genuine good work, nor its silliness, change the way it prioritizes police perspectives over anyone else's. Which just makes sense, because virtually everyone in that show is a police officer. They're not going to have a show about police officers and then show a majority of other people's perspectives. That's not how it works. Grey's Anatomy focuses on the perspectives of the doctors, because that's what you're watching the TV show for. If you change the perspective dramatically, it's not the same show. Honestly, I can't believe I'm even talking about this. Good cop shows are a good thing. Just think back to when you were a child. You inherently knew for the most part, that cops were the good guys. That doesn't mean they're perfect. Obviously, no one is. And there certainly are problematic cops. But overall, they're good cops. They're not perfect, but they're good. If you as a kid thought they were bad, if you were taught that cops were not good, what are you going to do if you get lost? You're going to walk up to a random stranger instead of a cop and ask for help? Because that seems like a very bad idea. Inherently, cops should be seen as the good guys. I do not want to live in a society that views cops as bad guys. Again, that doesn't mean cops are perfect. There is police brutality. But everyone, even the police, largely agree that's not acceptable. So why should we put them as bad guys? Why should we cancel TV shows for children like Paw Patrol just because it shows cops in a good light?